Hi there, I'm Katie Wagner. Welcome to Social Media Help Desk. This is the time every week when we talk about what's new in social media and all the tips and tricks we've been using around the agency. We are coming to you today from KWSM Atlanta, our Atlanta office, and I'm here with content editor Adam.
Hello.
And content editor Kim.
Hi.
So today we've got a lot to talk to you about, and the first is GDPR. Which, if you don't know what that is, you might be under a rock, right? Because GDPR has been everywhere in the news lately. I've gotten a lot of email blasts from all the third-party apps you might use, like MailChimp or Constant Contact, things like that. And everybody's worried about GDPR because it stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And basically, it's launching May 25th, which is at the end of this week, Friday, right? And what you need to know is that it means that all the countries in the European Union have passed GDPR, and it's basically a rule, a regulation, designed to protect customer data. And so if your company does business in the countries in the European Union, then you need to make sure you have a lot of protection in place to make sure you're gathering their information with their consent and not just doing things like enrolling them in your newsletter without them opting in and things like that. They're really cracking down on that behavior. So they want to make sure personal data is gathered legally, and they put strict rules into place to make sure you're doing that. So Adam, what kind of changes are we seeing with our clients because of GDPR?
We don't have nearly as many European clients since we're dealing mostly
right. We should
in the
get
United
more
States.
European clients,
yeah,
yes.
I agree. But we're trying to do basically the same thing that Europe is doing, just on a voluntary basis, and talking to our clients about how we're going to handle opting in on things, how we're going to interact with third-party apps, what we can show them, or what they can show their customers or clients, or however they handle that. But really, we just have to kind of follow the same privacy regulations now, because even though it's not in the United States yet, that doesn't mean it won't be in the United States at some point. And with customers being so particular about data now, and everyone is very aware of what has happened, it's very hard not to be.
Yes.
People want you to be upfront. They want you to be honest. So yeah, we need our clients to not sign up people on their email list. They need to definitely make sure everyone is opting into whatever services they are offering. And just generally trying to be as transparent as possible with everyone that you're servicing, like everyone that you're showing yourself to.
Right. Well, I mean, even though GDPR is not technically in the U.S., I consider it to be best practices.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? There's nothing, Kim, back me up on this. There's nothing more annoying than when you go to an event or you meet somebody and then all of a sudden you're getting their newsletter.
Yes.
And there's, I haven't opted in, I haven't even visited your website, you're just soliciting me. And it feels really pushy and salesy.
Yeah.
And Adam's right. With the climate we live in today, where people are really concerned about who's gathering their personal data, it's just bad form. It's bad form to take that information without asking people to opt in. So if you are a business that does business with customers in the European Union countries, you need to be specifically concerned about this. But just for everybody, good thing to know about and good practices.
If you're beating them to the punch, then you're going to look better, and you are going to get the respect of your customers far faster than if you're being forced to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have questions about what this might mean for your business, you can call or email us anytime at the agency. My email is Katie at KatieWagnerSocialMedia.com, and we're happy to give you some tips on how you can implement changes there. Now, one of the things we talk about a lot here at the agency is bad reviews. So, reviews are important to people these days, right? For any kind of business, reviews matter, social proof matters. And having somebody say your product or service is good is much more powerful for the end consumer than having you say it, because we all think we do a good job, right?
Exactly.
But sometimes when we have clients that have products or services out there and reviews are important, not all of the reviews are stellar. No, you can't make everybody happy all of the time. That's just human nature. And I don't think anybody expects you to. So we should say that. Sometimes when I go to places and there's like all 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've cracked the code and you've only ever gotten positive reviews, share. But that's not going to happen.
More power to you.
But
sometimes there are people that you can't make happy, and that's okay. But what's important is to know what to do about that. Obviously we want to always exercise good customer service, but we also want to protect our online reputation and the information that's out there about our company. So Adam, I know you've been digging in lately to what you do if there's a bad review.
depending on your product, your review is going to be sought after, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Amazon, Yelp, wherever. People look at reviews. That is one of the first things you're going to look at. And Facebook even has that upper right-hand corner, how many stars out of 5.
Yeah.
So that stuff is massively important, especially if you don't have a huge glut of reviews, because a single bad one can hurt you. The biggest issue we see with any client is the emotional initial reaction. And getting a bad review it hurts. I mean, even though you know not to take it personal, your first response is, you get offended. I mean, you believe in your product. You want everyone else to. So it kind of hurts. We most recently with a client that we had, they had a fairly scathing review from somebody, and they were a social media influencer. They're somebody that ideally that we would be targeting to partner with. And this person had a horrible review, posted both on Amazon and on Facebook.
So they weren't a fan.
We're not at all.
Okay.
And the end result of what we had happen is this person is now a partner with our client. They have changed their review to 5 stars on both platforms. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and so they are now sort of coming into that family to help sell the product elsewhere. So
okay, so wait. How did all that happen?
Exactly.
They have a bad review and now they're believers.
And that's where it comes in on how to handle your bad reviews. The first thing to do is do not be emotional.
The hardest stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Might be the most important one, but it's also the hardest.
Criticizing your product is not criticizing you. It's not. It isn't something that you should take as a personal attack. You need to say, okay, well, how is my product or how is my service affecting this person, and what did they say? You have a different take on this for the speeches that you tend to give and when you do talks, but reaching out is always going to be your most important reaction. And what I did personally was reach out immediately to this person. I reached out as well as our client. We didn't comment on the review itself initially, but we did reach out to them. And we asked, we wanted to hear more about the story. We wanted them to send us pictures. We wanted to get all the details of what happened. And she was very forthcoming, absolutely emailed us pictures, told us what was going on. And what we did first, and after we'd reached out, is make that right. Whether it is sending her a new product, offering your service a second time if you're a salon, or giving people a coupon to come back in. We made it right. That is the first thing you can do. Even if a person isn't going to change your review, you want to make sure that you make things right by the customer. 100%.
Well, I agree with that. And so what I always say is that you should take it offline, right? Don't get into a tit-for-tat conversation on the review platform about what happened.
Absolutely.
You should say, hey, I'm so sorry you had that experience. Can you private message us your email or your phone number so that we can talk about it?
Absolutely.
And then I agree with you. The most important step is to make it right. Even if you have to eat crow, even if you have to give them something, even if it hurts your pride or you have to acquiesce, make it right, because, Adam, as you know, it's not just about that person.
Yes.
It's about everybody who's going to see the review from there on out.
And don't think that doing this is going to turn the review positive.
No.
You will inevitably have people that aren't happy. You need to make things right by them for your own benefit. You need to do things right, and you need to take pride in your business to that degree.
Plus, you just sleep better at night.
Yeah, exactly. You want to do the right thing.
Sure.
That's the bottom line, in regardless of what you want to see with the review. So we did that. We sent her a new product. We had a Skype, she Skyped in with one of the members of the board and came in and talked to them, and it was fantastic. And she was they were very responsive to us. We kind of walked them through what we intended the product to do for them. And
for her.
And she was extraordinarily grateful for it. And so that was our next step. So you had the personal interaction. Now, a lot of the times you can do this with just a few emails.
Sure.
You can send them a new product, or you can give them something, talk to them, and that can be, and we obviously went a little bit further with this, but it worked out wonderfully. And it really only took that little bit of interaction and that little bit of confidence on our end, and also the ability to sort of, like you said, eat crow and say, hey, yeah, we messed up. This is not how things are supposed to work. We're very, very sorry. And then sort of do what we can to make them happy. And the best part is you can solicit a new review. That can happen. You can sort of you can outright solicit, but I would recommend not doing that. Let the customer make that decision on their own. And we'd say, hey, I hope this changes your mind and that you don't hold to this review anymore. And she voluntarily wanted to change it because she saw the value and she was greatly appreciative. And that part of her review is, this customer service was amazing. They absolutely took care of me, and that was inspiration.
Actually may be better than what she, and if she hadn't said anything,
exactly.
right? So like that end product may have actually reflected better on the company,
right,
than if she just chose not to say anything.
And and as we said, this person is now a partner. This person is now working with our client to further their reach.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's absolutely the through the moon best response you could possibly get. But all it took was a little bit of effort on our part. Like, it isn't hard to reach out. It isn't hard to talk to a customer. It isn't hard to make something right.
That's transparency, right?
Exactly.
Being willing to say, okay, let us figure out what happened. Let's talk to you about it, and let's make it right. I think that sometimes people have a tendency to ignore negative reviews.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's probably, I don't know, what do you think, Kim? It's probably the worst thing you can do?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you go to a page and they've responded to positive reviews, or they've been kind of nitpicking which reviews to go to, and you see those negative reviews will stand out. So if there's no response for it, that stands out even more on behalf of the brand and the client.
Right.
So, and I agree with you, Adam. I'm going to push back a little bit. I think it's okay to say, hey, Susie, could you re-review to let us know what happened? But don't ever ask for the original review to be deleted. So like on Yelp, you can update your review. So like maybe it was 1 star and now it's 3 stars or whatever. I think that is incredibly beneficial because that's where the story comes in, that the client or the company reached out to help me fix it, and and it got back.
And we phrased it as, hopefully this changes your view of the product, and you can reconsider your review, and that isn't how you feel anymore. And she took that as the motivation to go change the review. But you don't want to necessarily harass them about that. Like, you can ask, if they don't do it, they don't do it. That's
It's their
fine.
prerogative, right?
But like Kim said, don't ignore the reviews, no matter what they are. Never ignore bad reviews.
Well, we live in a society where people have a lot more voice than they used to, right? And if a customer is happy or unhappy with you, regardless of the reason, whether it's justified or not, they have a lot more power than they used to. Kim, I know you're a big foodie. You go to a lot of restaurants.
Yes.
How much when you look on Yelp or something, how much do the restaurant reviews play into whether you're going to go or not?
About 80%.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
Because you're depending on the customers, because they're the ones who are really giving you that honesty, and you really want to know, is this food good, or wherever I'm going, is it a good restaurant to go to? How's the service? How's the parking? You look at all of those things to figure out, is it worth taking that trip to this restaurant?
Right. And we always joke about, people's websites are what they want you to know, right?
Yes.
The social media and the review sites are the more authentic look at really what's happening.
Right.
So I think it's good to keep in mind. I think, social proof is a concept we talk about a lot, and that is that people will believe what other people say more than they will believe what you say about your product, right? And so good social proof is important. You've got to get good reviews. And when there's bad social proof out there, you got to nip that in the bud. You got to take care of it and learn something. I think that's the other point. Like, maybe this woman had a point about the product.
And she absolutely did.
Right.
Her review was, extremely negative, but due to her experience, she was absolutely justified.
Well, and you can make changes at the company to make sure that doesn't happen again,
And
which I think is really valuable.
And that's what has been done at this point. So, yeah, absolutely. Listening to negative reviews can often be the most important piece of education for going forward.
Yeah. All right. Okay, well, good advice, Adam. Thanks. All right, let's talk about something a little different, and that's YouTube. I like YouTube. And YouTube has you guys like YouTube too.
Absolutely.
We're fans of YouTube around here. But YouTube is making some changes, and it feels like they're scrambling a little bit to me.
Yes.
They have this service called YouTube Red, which was like their premium streaming service. And originally, and we were just saying we didn't know this before researching this story for you all today, originally YouTube Red was about music. It was about live streaming music, and it was created to compete with Spotify and Apple Music. And so it was about live streaming videos and songs and stuff. But that's not what most people use YouTube Red for today, because today they use it for streaming content, like shows. And then it would compete with things like Hulu or Netflix.
Yep.
Right? And so they're kind of catching on to this, YouTube, and they're
Yes.
trying to make some changes to YouTube Red to have more people use it for those things. I know that they're thinking about some original content, like you know how Netflix puts out
Yeah.
original movies and shows. And I believe Hulu does that too, right? Hulu
Yes,
has
absolutely.
original
And
content.
some of the YouTube content is great. I mean, they used to have it up to creators, but there's some really good shows of it at this point.
Right,
So,
it's not just yahoos making videos in their basement like this
Yeah.
one, right?
Right, yeah.
It's people who are real filmmakers or TV people creating quality shows. I wish Taylor was here, one of our Orange County content editors, but she was telling me that she signed up for YouTube Red just to see this particular show that she wanted to see.
As did I this weekend. I wanted to
Okay.
see the Karate Kid sequel TV show that they did, and it's fantastic. It's one of the most, it's very ridiculous, but it's perfectly YouTube, and they're becoming solid content creators. It's no longer just their more popular streamers or content creators doing funny videos. I mean, this is high budget actual television now. So it's definitely moving up towards the Hulu Netflix level.
Interesting. Last week on Social Media Help Desk, you guys can go back to our YouTube channel and see the past episode. But last week we talked about how YouTube had done a study that most of their content is being consumed on televisions.
Yes.
Which is counterintuitive, right? Because you think most people consume social media content on their phones, mobile devices. But no, actual TVs, like big TVs on the wall or on the shelf, is where most people are watching YouTube these days.
That's where I watch most of mine, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, I stream it onto my television because it's just easier, and then I can actually close out the app because it's streaming on my TV.
Like through
and
a smart
I can,
TV.
Yeah, through
Yeah.
a smart TV, and then I can easily just text someone or do anything else on my device while it's still playing.
That's interesting. Well, and that's what most people are doing these days.
Also, like gaming consoles are another big one, and people have them as essentially entertainment platforms.
Yes.
Where you have your Blu-ray player, you have all your apps, and so you just put up YouTube.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways that I watch it is just through a device. So yeah.
Well, so we're playing into the stats they're showing, and I think that's why they're focused so much on Red being streaming content or shows, because they know that people are watching it that way. And I wouldn't necessarily need to watch TV or music on the TV, but content you do. And so they're also making some changes to the way they do music, and they have a new thing called YouTube Music that will replace Google Play Music. It's interesting. So YouTube sort of, I think they've gotten the shaft a little bit in recent years because there have been so many streaming services that have come out, and they're popular. Netflix is popular. But YouTube's kind of making a play to get back in there. I also think, and we've seen this at the agency, that Facebook is really going after YouTube because they've made such a play on their channel to have you upload videos live into Facebook rather than sharing the YouTube links.
Exactly.
So we've seen some changes even to the algorithm that when you share YouTube links on Facebook, it doesn't get the kind of reach that it does when you upload the video directly into YouTube or into Facebook, sorry. And so, there's a little competition there.
There is.
Yeah.
And you see it with the Facebook Watch. Like when you go into a video now, you're going to watch the first 10 or 15 seconds. So they'll continue on Facebook Watch. So there definitely is some competition going on between the two of them.
Everyone's kind of trying to get a piece of the pie.
Our world is changing.
That's true.
Okay, so quick, what's your favorite streaming or place to watch content? Is it YouTube or you like something better?
Mine has to be Netflix because of the original content that's on there, and then I can just binge watch it, and I just love it. I love it.
I spend a lot of time on Amazon Prime for
okay.
TV shows and movies for sure. But I constantly am streaming small bits on YouTube. Those 10, 15-minute pieces of content, I devour them. So,
Cat videos?
I mean, that's definitely up there, yes.
Sometimes. I like Hulu. I'm a little old school, and I think Hulu was one of the first ones, and it used to be free, so I'm into that.
Yeah.
Now I have to pay for my Hulu, but it's like $4.99 a month, so I guess if I can't swing it, we're all in trouble, huh?
Right. Yeah.
All right, good. Kim, let's talk about something that's been on your mind a little bit lately, and all of our minds, and that is live streaming.
Yes, live streaming. So everyone, as you mentioned before, being able to upload the videos in there. One of the things that a lot of companies are doing now is Facebook Live, and they want to get into Facebook Live. You'll be able to see the comments come up on the page as you're, streaming your videos.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, especially first coming out, you have to figure out what is the best way to capture that live stream, because you don't, especially as a brand or a company, you don't want the live stream to be poor quality. You want it to reflect your company, which is, everyone thinks, high quality, very professional. So what comes with that, of course, is the type of equipment that you need. What all do you need to make a really good video? Yeah. So, of course, one of the things you're going to need is access to Wi-Fi. You have to actually be able to go live.
Yes.
Depending on where you are, sometimes the Wi-Fi can be spotty. You don't want to go to your phone and use that signal because it can get risky with that because it can go in and out as well. So you don't want to have a live stream video and then it's gone out and it's blank and then it comes back up because
there's nothing worse than having your live stream drop out. And as a viewer, it's very frustrating when you've like tuned in to watch and then you're like, you know?
Exactly.
And chances are they're not going to come back.
No, it's true. It's true. We actually, I don't know if we should admit this, but on our very first social media help desk a few months ago, it dropped out. And we didn't know it dropped out. So we were talking and conversing and debating, and it was so stimulating, and you will never see it because it dropped out and it's gone. So yeah, Wi-Fi is the most important part of live streaming. Probably a good signal.
Yeah, and just like what you were saying, when you were talking, having a great conversation, the viewer wasn't able to get into the conversation. They missed some of those key components.
Right, and you know, again, making sure the Wi-Fi connection is good because again, like we're lucky to have an office with excellent Wi-Fi, so we can do it. But a lot of places don't. If you're trying to go into a Starbucks to do your live stream, you're going to have problems.
Right.
So
we tried to live stream for a client from a gym once, but there are not a lot of windows in the gym. It's all this concrete box we were in, and it didn't go well. So.
Exactly.
You have to test it ahead of time. So preparation,
testing
is important, right? You don't just wing it with a live stream.
Right, and just like you mentioned where you were kind of in a concrete box, that's another thing, lighting. You really want to make sure you have great lighting. Like here, we have great overhead lights, and we also have a great window that brings in that great light. You can always, of course, buy lighting equipment, but when you're starting out initially, you may want to test out what you already have because you may not need it, especially if you're going to be live streaming in the same area.
Right. And I think, making sure you just have a lot of natural light is really good because it's flattering. And I'll give you my tip from my TV days is you want the window to be shining in your face. So if you're looking into the window, that's always the best. Here we have one off to the side. We'll take it because our office just isn't shaped the right way. But in an ideal situation, if you can be facing a window and have the camera between the window and you, that's how it's going to look the most flattering.
Right. You just got to think about when you're taking selfies.
Yeah,
you don't want the light behind you because it's going to make a shadow.
Right.
Use those little tips to, tweak your light.
That's actually a great analogy. Just think of it like doing a selfie. Because we all take a lot of them and pay a lot of attention to the lighting when we do them.
And whether we want to admit it or not, we're testing it out even when we're by ourselves, just to kind of see what the great things are.
I'm not going to admit it. You admit it, but I'm not going to admit it.
But aside from the lighting, of course, you need to have the right camera. Whether you're going to get the camera that you have in Orange County office, the DSLR, or what we're currently using right now, which is an up-to-date phone. You don't want to have an out-of-date phone because you never know how that's going to play out, but having an up-to-date phone and having a tripod. Because cameras get shaky. As a viewer, you don't want to see a shaky video. You want to see something sturdy. You want to see people's reactions, not the camera's movements.
Yeah.
It's distracting. It can give you headaches.
And you lose focus. And if your audience isn't listening, what's the point, right? The tripod we're using right now, we probably bought on Amazon for $20 or less. I mean, it's not a high-tech piece of equipment. And Kim's right. We're using a cell phone right now. I will point out that we're using a Samsung cell phone because I am the only person on the team that doesn't have an iPhone, and I'm okay with that. So iPhone's not the end-all be-all. It can be a Samsung, but it's a recent one. It's an up-to-date phone. And in Orange County, when we live stream there, we use Andrew, our videographer. He has a DSLR camera that has a better picture on it. So we live stream through that, and then we bought a cable online. Again, probably a $10 purchase that attaches to the computer, so we can live stream from the DSLR right into the computer. But either way is fine. Maybe try live streaming a few times before you invest in equipment. With the exception of the tripod. I think the tripod is kind of essential because as much as we love JC, who is watching our camera right now, making sure it doesn't tip over, shaking hands.
Right.
Bad business for live streams, right?
Yeah. So I think definitely having a tripod, bringing back the analogy of a selfie stick.
Oh.
It's the same thing. You don't want to, you want to get the right angles. You want to make sure that it's there and they can watch you clearly. So testing it out, making sure, because we did that here where we tested out, asking JC, do we need to scoot over? How's the plant looking? How's the picture in the back? You want to make sure you kind of have it all set up.
That's right. Well, it's your brand, right? I mean, social media content of any kind, whether it's planned or live or whatever, is your brand. And winging it's probably not a good idea.
Right. And live videos are great just for going live and also to have great content that they can go back to. Just like you mentioned, we do the social media help desk every week. You can go back at any time to see the videos. So it's still great videos, and we all know that videos are great on Facebook as far as
So
getting
even
good
if
content,
your
yeah.
live stream doesn't get 100 people as you're doing it, it's still great content because it's going to be up there and it's going to get those views over time. So
Good point.
definitely remember when you're doing your live stream, especially the first few, you might only have 2 viewers because you told your parents to watch it. That happens.
My mom does watch every one of our live streams. She
There
doesn't
you go.
know how to comment, thank goodness, but she does watch.
And I watch all of our live streams, and I watch a lot of
Afterwards,
ones
yeah.
that people do with their clients here, and that's awesome. But again, your view count is going to go up over time, so don't be discouraged if your first few aren't that popular. You're building something.
Well, and I actually think you can spin that to be a positive thing, because I know I pull members of our team in to do the live stream with me, right? And even though I was in TV many years, so this isn't so scary for me. It can be intimidating. I think for a lot of our clients, it's intimidating, and not that many people are going to actually watch live the first time, right? The first time you live stream, you may only have a handful of people, so just don't be scared. Get out there, try it, because it's really valuable. And if, heaven forbid, all things go badly and it's just terrible, guess what you can do after you're finished? Delete it.
No
You
one has
can
to see
delete
it.
the video. So it's really not that big of an investment. Try to put it out there.
And we've seen amazing results. Like Shanice, who been on a few times, and one of her clients started doing live streams, and there are 1 to 2 people watching, and now she gets 100 some views over time. And
Absolutely, as do we.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
have hundreds of people watch these live streams, but not live with us, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
But afterwards, either on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page,
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've seen great results with it.
which is cool. Yeah. Sorry. What other tips do you have? We're just pontificating.
I guess the last tip that I have is play around with the timing of your live stream. Depending on what your service is and who your target audience is, maybe lunchtime is the perfect time for it. Maybe it's after hours. Maybe it's early in the morning. Testing out those different times to figure out what's the best time for your audience where you're getting the most live views. You may want to test that out as well, because even though you are getting views over time, you may want a little bit more interaction. So just playing around with the times.
So but once you find that time that hits, would you say stick with this certain period of time? Like the certain
I would
time frame
say
you're doing?
I would say stick with it, especially depending on what you're doing. So if we decided to go beyond just social media help desk and doing another live video for maybe behind the scenes with clients or something like that, that may be something where we may test it out after business hours. Just something different. But I always say no need to reinvent the wheel. If it works, just keep doing it.
Well, and something we talked about before we got on the air here is you got to publicize it ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is part of the preparation. If you're going to go live, tell people you're going to go live, right? Don't just click it on one day and make a show. You should, we have graphics we post ahead of time saying, it's coming, and we tease the topics and that sort of thing. And that helps people, even if they can't tune in live, it helps people know to look for the video later on.
Exactly.
And then likewise, you can share it afterwards. Did you miss our live stream? Check out this video, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you. Thank you. We're big fans of live streaming. You can tell us what you think in the comments below, of course. And then one last piece of news that I think has kind of rocked our world a little bit here, and it's Twitter is getting a little cranky. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, that's a very kind of way to say it.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're getting a little cranky with third-party apps. And so let's preface this by saying we find that with the business owners we work with, Twitter is the most intimidating platform.
Yes.
It's the one most people are scared of, most people stay away from. It's not as popular as something like Facebook when clients come to us and need help. And I think it's because Twitter moves in real time.
Yes.
And you have to put so much content out to really get traction. We recommend tweeting 5 to 10 times a day. And I think that's scary to some people. They say, what am I going to write that many times? And who has time to be on their Twitter 5 to 10 times a day, except us?
Yeah, so thankfully that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But
But I think one of the things you do to combat that, right, is you use third-party apps.
Yes.
You use something like Buffer or TweetDeck or Hootsuite, there are a million of them, to feed your tweets into social media.
Right.
Now, we are normally not a fan of scheduling at all. We like to do everything live around here. It's the most authentic. It gets the best results. It has the best reach. But sometimes we will make an exception for Twitter.
Right.
Because Twitter needs that frequency. And if you're going to use a third-party app anywhere, Twitter's the only place I feel a little bit okay about it.
Right.
Right? It's the only place we ever use third-party apps around here. But the crankiness. Twitter has decided they don't want to play nicely with third-party apps.
And this
They've
goes
never
back into GDPR.
It does. Go ahead. Yeah,
Well,
tell us about
well,
that.
yeah, I mean the part of the European Union thing is like the big issue came when Facebook allowed third-party apps, and people started grabbing data out of third-party apps, and so Twitter is trying to go back against that, heading it off at the pass, so to speak, before they have a Facebook situation.
Yes.
So a lot of this feeds back in from those rules that are being enforced in Europe, and they're just getting ahead of it here.
Well, and when Facebook has to go in front of Congress,
Yep.
then you take notice of that,
Yeah.
right? And so I think probably it's their fault. We shouldn't say Twitter's cranky. You're right. Facebook is evil, and no, I'm just kidding.
Facebook made everyone else cranky.
They've made
There you
everyone
go.
cranky.
Yes.
Well, they've made everybody aware, right?
Yes,
It's a
yes,
heightened
aware.
sense of awareness. And I think consumers too, right? Like users as well as the platforms.
Absolutely.
But Adam's right. In response to all of this, Twitter's decided they don't want to play nice with third-party apps, and they want to limit the amount of stuff that can have access to your Twitter stream, right? That can feed into Twitter. And so for a while now, we've been getting notifications that say you can't just schedule things to retweet a bunch of times, right? You can't feed the same tweet in a million times, which great, because that's bad practice anyway, right? You shouldn't tweet the same thing over and over again. And what else? What other changes have we seen?
As far as with the duplication of tweets, and that's something, we don't use a lot of scheduling apps, as you said, but people, if you had multiple accounts, you used to be able to post your same tweet, say to your personal, your business, and maybe another offshoot if you have multiple Twitter accounts.
Sure.
You used to be able to put that tweet across all three. Now you cannot do that.
Right.
You now have to do it individually into each section. That goes across any third-party apps that you happen to use. So that does, and that adds a little bit of time into things for you to do it, but you also have to think, hey, that's going to up my authenticity and my creativity, because you've got to write things differently through time.
Yeah.
And
It's like, it's a blessing in disguise, really.
Kind of is, yeah.
It will make better social media content.
And they don't want people spamming hashtags. That's another big one, where somebody that's completely unrelated will come in and start tweeting under the royal wedding hashtag from this weekend.
Right.
So to prevent that, they are also monitoring hashtags and how you interact with those. So now's your chance to go out and find even new and more creative hashtags or make up your own, so you aren't just using the same one every time.
Right. Well, and that's important, because if we put every tweet out with the hashtag social media, Twitter's looking at that going, really? Every time? Right? And they want us to use different stuff. And
Even
so,
if it's relevant.
Yeah, even if it is relevant, you have to mix it up a little bit. And so they're going to do that. And then it says August 16th, the last round of new changes is coming out. So we've got a little time, but here's what's going to change. They're going to prevent new tweets from streaming into an app in real time. So you can't put your stuff through a third-party app and have it go right into some push notifications. So the first one doesn't really bother me. If you're using a third-party app, it's probably not a time-sensitive thing that you're tweeting.
Right.
Because if it's time-sensitive, you just go on the Twitter app on your phone and
exactly.
you tweet, right? But preventing some push notifications means you may not be getting as much data or notification back if you're going through one of those apps. So again, it's an argument for checking your Twitter app directly and looking at your notifications there.
Yeah. I mean, in your personal account, you're like, oh, hey, look at my phone. I've got 10 notifications. Great. On your business page, you may see somebody that directly spoke to you, but when you go on there, you're like, oh, I have 29 notifications. So you have to keep up on your app. You can't do things just through TweetDeck, just through Hootsuite. You need to be on that.
And I think it's just best practice to not just heavily rely, because third-party apps, they have error moments and they have times where they need to update and their app may be down, and always having to stay consistent, because Twitter will constantly probably change their API because they're not a huge fan of third-party apps. But just making it a habit to go into Twitter, because you never know where Twitter may go in a year or so where third-party apps may be obsolete.
Sure.
So you need to be able to know how to navigate through there and just being able to see all those.
And if you're in that app, that's when you're going to catch great retweets. You're going to be more active with your people in real time. You're going to catch those trends.
If you're looking directly at Twitter. Yeah. Well, it's just, Kim said, it's best practice. It's better social media comes from being involved in the channels and with your audience directly. Right? And it's true, you said Twitter, which is what we're talking about, but even people who use third-party apps for LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, that's the way it is across the board.
Right.
Engaging with your audience through the platform they're commenting on or interacting with is always going to be your best practice.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, cool. Any final thoughts this week about things going on?
It's a weird time in social media, as
Yes.
we've been covering, I think, every week the last month or so. There's been some major change, which is extraordinarily intimidating, and that's okay. That's why we're here, and that's why you can email us and we can answer questions. But it is a little bit of a crazy time. But don't panic, because our job is to stay on top of these things, and there are always solutions. So don't be too panicked just because of all the bad news that's coming out, or all the scary news, or things you might think affect your business.
Yeah.
Like, this just means you get a new time to be creative.
Well, yes, it's a rebirth of social media. And it makes our jobs harder, right? Because every week we're having to learn new things and workarounds and new things that have changed. But that's what they pay us for, right?
I think that's kind of
our job.
a good thing.
Yeah.
It keeps you fresh and wanting to figure out what the new trends are, keeping up to date with your audience too, because their minds change, what they're into changes.
Right.
They're going to adapt, and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, different platforms are going to change based on how the audience is doing. So you're always constantly having to make changes and having to understand and really understand what the platforms are doing. So I think it's a positive thing too, just to always kind of stay up to date.
I do too. And it's a fun industry because of that, right? It's
Right.
never boring.
Never been.
So while things change, there are a couple of ways that you can stay up to date if you need more information. First, we have a newsletter that goes out every month. That has the biggest changes that we've seen during the month in it. So you can subscribe to that on our website. Second, we write a blog every day. Every single day we post on that blog, and it has all the things that are top of mind for us and our tips and best practices. And then lastly, our YouTube channel. We have hundreds and hundreds of tip of the day videos that are going up that you can see our favorite tips and tricks. And then of course you can see past episodes of this show where we talk in depth about all the changes. And we come to you live for Social Media Help Desk every Tuesday at 12:30 Pacific time. So make sure that you tune in, or at least watch it on YouTube. And please like this video so that we know you're there. All right, have a good week. See you later.
Bye.